Hello, everyone. Welcome to Trap Chat Women's History Month, the new She Suite, Trap Queens Redefining Success. I am thrilled to be joined by Kate Bischoff. You have seen her here before, and I'm sure this is going to be an even more outstanding conversation. For those who are not familiar, Kate is an attorney and an HR consultant. She has her own business, Kate Bish LLC. She is also a UKG Workforce Institute board member and HR compliance adjunct professor, an Audi lover. And I've ridden with her. And when I tell you she treats the Minnesota streets like the Autobahn, I am not exaggerating. She loves outdoor sports. She has a wanderlust. She's just pretty awesome. She's one of my favorite people. Oh, I think she loves Taylor Swift too.
I do. I'm actually wearing a Taylor sweatshirt.
Oh my God. And she introduced me to that burger with the melty stuff in the middle.
Juicy Lucy. Yeah.
Juicy Lucy. And she made me eat Minnesota sushi.
Made you? Right? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here with one of my favorite people.
Yay. All right. We're going to get right into it.
Okay.
Success. It's often defined in traditional linear terms, like what your job title is, how much money you make. How do you define and measure success, and how have your definitions evolved throughout your career journey?
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to admit, everybody, she sent me these questions. I did not read them in advance. So you're getting off the cuff.
Don't tell everyone. Like, come on.
But no, this is a really good question because I have been thinking about this recently. Because one of the things that I have found recently in my life, like in the last year, is that I am super proud of being a parent. And if you asked me when I was 13, if that would be like one of my life goals, I would be like, laugh in your face. But I have defined success for myself as, do I get to do the things I want to do when I want to do them? So for example, I am making enough money so that I can travel the way I want to travel, that I can take my kids when I want to take my kids with me, or I can solo travel when I want to solo travel. Because wanderlust is really me. I have 7 trips in the next 6 months. So yeah, it's crazy, but it's all the things I want to do, a mixture of city and outdoorsy stuff. So I'm that's how success is. Do I get to do what I want to do when I want to do it?
I love that. And you know what? Forgive me. I was remiss in mentioning that you are a fantastic mom. Your oldest is in undergrad now.
Yeah.
Did you cry?
I cried a little bit on the way home from dropping him off.
It took you like 20 minutes to get there, right?
No. 3 hours and 2 right turns. He's in Iowa.
Okay, so you didn't drive.
I didn't drive. No, I had Ozzy drive. So that I could cry a little bit. Because I knew it was going to be emotional. And, he's got a new driver's license. He needs to take that out for a test drive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I cried a little bit, but one of the things I was worried about is to whether or not Quentin and I would still be really connected. And we are. I still get random texts about like, how do I make a move with a girl? Or 5% on my physics midterm. Like I get those things. So we're still connected. So that's great.
I love it. I didn't mean to make you cry. Sorry.
It takes a little bit.
But that's success. That's success too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're definitely happy tears, right?
Yeah. They're tremendous people. Like follow her Instagram. We'll get to that later. All right, let's get back to it.
Okay.
You're both an employment lawyer and a hands-on HR practitioner.
Yes.
Okay. How have you leveraged this dual perspective to build trust and bridge the communication gap between legal and HR departments that often operate with different priorities.
Yes, they definitely do operate with different priorities on occasion. One thing I generally do in my practice is I don't work with organizations with more than 3,000 employees intentionally, because if you have 3,000 employees, I'm going to be dealing with a general counsel who only dabbles in employment law and can't keep up with how fast it changes and is detached from the practical part of, if I'm going to recommend the termination of your director of operations, that's going to have huge operational impact. So my recommendation is going to be, we need to let this gentleman go for, making harassing statements. And how do we both leverage the message of, he made harassing statements, we don't tolerate, we want that message to be heard loud and clear through the organization. And who do you have ready to step up into the plate to take that? So I have a very operational and legal piece of it. I get the concern around, oh my God, I'm going to be letting go my director of ops. Like, I get it. I understand. How can we work to fix that? Are we going to need to go outside to get a temp? Do we have people who can step up? Like, I look at it as, I want you to continue doing your business because firing this guy is the right thing to do. And I want you to be successful in part because you're doing that.
Okay. That's a great segue to my next question, which you have no idea what that is. Can you share a specific instance when your relationship building skills helped transform a potentially contentious workplace issue, similar to what you just mentioned, that harassment?
Yes. So I was working with a nonprofit, and the executive director had been accused of engaging in inappropriate sexual conduct with essentially interns. And I had a relationship with one of the board members because I helped with her organization for years. And she called me up and was like, we've got this allegation. We don't know what we're like. Look at my millennial, right? Like, yeah. The Gen Xer. She called me up and said, I'm real concerned. I don't know what we should do. And I'm like, well, I got this. I'll come in. I'll do an investigation. And then I presented to the board, and there were lots of board members who were like, I just don't believe he's such a good guy, which is often their response in some cases when they don't know me. And so I had built this relationship with this board member for years before having to come in and make a devastating recommendation to the organization, which had questions about whether or not it could continue to survive without a founding executive director, et cetera. So what I did was build on that relationship. I'm like, listen, we've been down this road, with line level employees before. What was the impact? Have you seen this? And you all will survive, because here's the way you can survive. It was that kind of step up. So,
did you see that flash just then?
Yeah.
Or was that just on my side? Okay. I was like, what was that? All right.
Disco Kate. Yeah.
That was Disco Kate. I love that. That's another great segue, because my next question is about your experience and how accountability in the workplace culture has evolved. So I want to know, in addition to what you just mentioned, because that does answer this question, what strategies have you implemented to help employers maintain accountability while effectively balancing legal compliance with innovative, business-friendly solutions?
So I take the position that when we're making a hard decision that is in the benefit of the employee group writ large, we are doing the best for the business in the moment. It's not going to feel like it, but we step back and look a little further and look at how much better we did. And this often comes up with the untouchable employee, who, like the salesperson who's the best salesperson, who asks people for, while we're at happy hour, we're playing truth or dare and we dare all the women to take their panties off at the table. Like, true story. But he's so valuable. He has the relationships with all of our key clients. I'm like, okay, but look, he didn't, mentor people and bring people into those relationships. So how were you going to do this long term? And you never know what the next person is going to be able to do with those relationships. Everybody is replaceable. And so I learned this, strongly in the State Department, because in the State Department, all the Americans move every 2 to 3 years. So you have to be ready for that replacing, which you can go better, can go worse, but you never know unless you make the decision. And if it makes the decision to reduce your risk and potentially gets better, then wasn't it the right decision, a year down the road or past? Or what can we do to improve the situation? Because I guarantee you it wasn't that dude. It wasn't the harassing dude, because that was going to blow up in your face regardless. So when we're looking at making innovative things, I have a real skepticism, because it's how I'm trained. Lawyers are very skeptical of new things, but I want you to try it on the cutting edge, not the bleeding edge. So I'm going to want you to wait a little bit to see how things shake out. I'm not going to be excited about the brand new fancy toy that cannot talk about its risks. So I test those things with vendors. Like, okay, where have you found risk? What, are you tracking XYZ things so that my clients have a better position from a compliance perspective? So I'm always looking for, do we know what the risk is? Can we continue to go forward, balancing that risk, knowing that we could do much better? So
I love that. And your comment, the way you started, it triggered something in me. I mean, you come on, I work in recruiting and I worked in corporate, in a male charged, we'll say, environment, defense and intel. And when you mentioned about those golden people, those do not touches, who are big time sexual harassers, big time every other kind of harasser, big time not nice people. I've had to work with all of them, and I've only seen one real instance, or no, I've seen two instances, because they were so egregious that they just couldn't make any more excuses for why they weren't going to take action and do something. And it made everybody else, it started to build back trust for the rest of us, and let us kind of let our shoulders calm down a bit.
Absolutely. And one thing that people don't understand about accountability is when you're holding somebody accountable for bad behavior, like the most conflict-ridden conversation you're about to have with somebody potentially, right? Is by having that conversation and holding someone accountable, everybody else sees it and they can step up. Like, yes, you have to get into this conflict with this particular person to try to get them to improve their performance or change their behavior or whatever. But other people see it. And when you don't have those conversations, everybody else is here like, why the hell does Mike get away
with that? Yes,
absolutely. So accountability is key to everybody, even though it's going to be a difficult conversation for you.
Yeah. I love that. I think you did read the questions, because you keep leading into no. You keep reading into the leading into the next one. So you just talked about a proactive approach, which is key to navigating complex compliance issues. Since you've seen people, and these are your words, do and say some really goofy and inappropriate things in the workplace. Without naming names, can you share a memorable scenario that taught you an important lesson about taking a proactive approach to leadership?
Ooh. Well, there's so many instances where I don't get to be proactive because I'm coming in because something really bad has happened. But I'll give you an example. So this happened years ago. So no one's going to get real upset about this. But I was visiting a client in North Dakota, and I got a call that for a request for an investigation. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you know? Well, we know that our CEO sent the following text message to one of his direct reports, which was eggplant emoji, tongue emoji, question mark. And I started laughing. And they're like, why are you laughing? And I'm like, well, do you know that he sent the text message? Yeah, we know he sent the text message. I'm like, okay, I am more than happy to take your money. But I know what my recommendation is going to be, because when a CEO sends something like that, that is a direct request for a sexual favor, and a C-suite cannot engage in that behavior ever, because you get punitive damages on top of it. There's direct liability for a statement like that, right? So I'm like, again, I'm happy to take your money, but do you really need an investigation at this point? And they're like, yes, we think we need one. I'm like, okay, I'll go do an investigation. And I found lots of other really bad things. So it took me a week to do the full investigation. It wasn't in Minneapolis, so I had to travel to do the investigation. And so on a Friday afternoon at 4:00 in the afternoon, I am speaking to a Fortune 500 board about what I have found in this investigation. And one of their questions was, is there anybody there, because this was a subsidiary, is there anybody there who can step into the role on a temporary basis? And my response was no, because they've all seen this behavior and they don't necessarily recognize it as something bad. You can't let the, people play when they just lost their head, bad person. Like, this behavior is going to continue. And the best thing that you can do from a proactive perspective is to have someone from the outside whose job is primarily to change the tone of the organization, not just keep it running, because it's going to run, it's going to be doing fine. Like, I don't have any questions about that. It's, you have to change the tone, because I not only recommended the term of the CEO, I recommend the term of the HR person on site. But you can't have someone who has been in this environment and has thought it's been okay to run the organization. You need to be proactive in changing that culture. This is not, we're going to limp along until we find a new CEO. It's, you have to start changing that now, because whoever you do bring in, it's unfair to them to ask them to change the organization. You need to have someone temporary from you, parent company, coming in to, bring the new sheriff in town, whatever cliche you want to use. But from a proactive perspective, you can't react to this failure in the organization. You have to proactively go, now we have to change it. And that comes from us changing it. Does that make sense?
It does. Wow. I am.
Let me tell you, I can't ever go to the town where this happened again and feel clean. Like, I can't.
I don't even want to know, like, what other messages were sent. That one was.
Mm-hmm. There was a threesome involved. There was naked.
Oh my God.
It was really quite something. And, I love my job because this stuff is hilarious to me. I mean, it's very serious. I'm going to take it very serious.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But stepping back, like, dude, you thought you could.
That was okay. Like
the gall of you. So
the joys of HR and working with people, the joys of people in general.
Yes.
Wow.
I joke that testosterone and stupidity pay my mortgage, and that is more true than not. So.
You're so awesome. And you absolutely read these questions. All right. She's sitting here trying to make you like, I just came off the cuff with all these amazing answers. No, she absolutely did not read the questions. The first thing she said was, what? Yes, I received your questions. Thank you. I did not read them.
I
these questions that I spent a lot of time. Just
I appreciate all the effort you put into them, friend.
Anyway, our theme is the new She Suite. Get it? She. Women's history. Okay. How should women leaders in HR leverage technology to create innovative approaches that satisfy legal compliance while simultaneously enhancing the employee experience? And if you can, share a specific example where technology has helped transform a potential friction point into an opportunity for meaningful workplace engagement.
Well, I definitely didn't read that question.
Okay.
So I am when a client comes to me because they're looking for either changing a process or they're evaluating technology, I always ask, what does this do for you? Like, where is the value prop in you getting this new technology? And there's one piece of technology that I think is a real benefit, even though there are some perception risks attached to it. Okay. And that would be video interviewing for that first round screen. Okay. Because when I'm working with a recruiter and I'm talking to them about like what is like the most frustrating thing, I think one of the most frustrating things they have is scheduling interviews with managers who don't have time to do them. And I think, 5 years ago, I would have said video interviewing is really problematic because people don't understand the impact of video. I think 5 years now, we're much more comfortable with it. And if someone can watch 10 5-minute interviews while, doing their business in the bathroom, and I didn't have to bother them to schedule it, like that's a real benefit. That's a real friction point that comes off of the recruiter's plate. So that now they've looked at 10, like I've given you a full slate. You don't have to pick 3. I'm going to give you 10 based upon these 5-minute interviews. You pick your top 3. I've already screened them for qualifications, but you get this really quick thing. The problem with video interviewing is that some people might not be comfortable with it. Some people might not understand their technology. It's definitely not for every position, right? Not every position is going to be able to do this, all those kinds of things. But when you have a working manager whose job is to do the work and manage, this can be something that's really helpful from a time perspective. and I'm so sorry, fucking hate the overlays that come on video interviewing because I think they are a breeding ground for discrimination and they are a breeding ground for just a whole lot of other things that can go dramatically wrong. But from the time saving and the friction of, well, what does your Tuesday afternoon look like? I think that can really alleviate a lot of those issues. So when someone comes to me with, we're thinking about implementing new technology, I'm like, well, tell me why this is great. It's not just the purple squirrel or the, shiny new toy that we can use. It's what are you really trying to solve? Because sometimes the technology is going to hamper you because people don't understand how to use it. And we could do things differently. Like recruiting is, and I don't mean to be at all, dismissive or condescending. You are selling internally. Here are my candidates. I got to sell you on these candidates. If you don't value spending time to actually look at the candidates, then why am I working so hard for you? Like that's the perspective I have. And so video interviewing has been I'm just going to give you these 10 5-minute interviews. You pick them. And now that you've got your top 3-5 candidates, now you see the importance of me putting stuff on your calendar because you're already investing in that. So that would be my example. When I think of female HR people in looking for what their leadership should be in technology, is we have to spend time understanding the technology. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn about it. You can't just wait for a vendor to come to you and go, Look at the new thing I have. Like, you have to be proactive in knowing what's out there. And there are lots of different ways to do that. And I don't want to prescribe one way over the other. But if you don't know what's out in the market, then you should spend some time before you see the first shiny toy that comes across your desk. So,
as a recruiter who has a feeling about video interviewing, I don't feel about video interviewing the same way a lot of people feel about cover letters. Like they hate them or they love them. Like, right. I see the value in them, but I also see where, like you said, the risk, the bias, the discrimination, the judging people on things that don't actually have anything to do with the job.
Right. Like, you teach a lot about just based upon my background, right? Like, this is a clearly South Minneapolis architecture home. I seem to like plants,
light,
cat in the brown, right? Lots of light. Like, you can make a lot of judgments about that. So if your video interviewing platform has an automatic background, that's better, right? Like, because you eliminate all of that judging. How wear their hair or what they're wearing, we would judge that on an in-person interview too.
True.
So there are ways that we can eliminate some of those biases. And that's what I would ask for, is how can we do that so that you just see like the company logo behind them, because so much of our work is done in little boxes, whether it's Zoom, Teams, or whatever. You might as well see what they perform like in the little box.
I feel we're going to talk about this offline, but I feel a webinar coming up. Like, I feel no, you're laughing, but like, I think we spend a lot of time talking about the outside of the umbrella, and we don't spend enough time on those little drops that didn't make it in. Like, we're like, no, I'm being serious. Like, we talk about these things in a broad context. We'll talk about bias and we'll add video interviewing, we'll add these things, but we don't spend enough time talking about each specific thing. So we're going to talk offline about that. I want to, because we don't 100% agree,
right.
And and I think that both of our perspectives, or even I think other perspectives could come in, but your legal perspective and your compliance perspective is definitely necessary. So yeah. All right, let's move on. It's time for rapid fire.
Okay.
These are the questions that you probably should have prepared for.
Okay. Woo. Let's go.
Everybody gets these. These aren't tailored to you. These are tailored to Women's History Month. So, first question. Who is a well-known or lesser-known historical or contemporary woman who inspires you and we should learn more about?
Mary Beth Tinker. Mary Beth Tinker is the reason why I became a lawyer. She was I don't remember if it was middle or high school student, but it was in the 1970s, and she was protesting the Vietnam War. So she wore a black armband to school and she got expelled for it. Yeah. And with the help of the ACLU, she brought her case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the holding of that case is students and teachers get to express their First Amendment rights, provided it doesn't cause an unreasonable disruption to the classroom. And wearing a black armband in protest of the Vietnam War is not creating an unreasonable distraction. And I look at Mary Beth as, particularly right now, as an opportunity to see and say and what is important to us. Like, the war on Gaza is something that is very important to me. I have very good friends who are Palestinians and Israelis, and I know that, the family that lost their children, that is heartbreaking because of Hamas's actions. But losing 15,000 plus children is also incredibly heartbreaking. And so I voice my opposition to that. And when I do that, I think of Mary Beth Tinker. I think of, I should express my feelings in a way that sometimes can be a unreasonable distraction where appropriate, like in a protest or things like that. but I also get to be who I am and share my experiences wherever I am. And if you don't want to hear it, this is not the place for me.
Okay. I love that. And thank you. What is your favorite empowering quote from a woman that resonates with you and influenced your perspective on women's history and achievements?
I am too old not to know it will be okay.
Who said that?
Oh, female mentor of mine.
I feel attacked. How dare you?
Yeah, like if you are doing something that is true to who you are and you are going to try and go out and make it, if you don't make it, you're still going to be okay.
I am at a particular point, like my state of mind is not accepting of that very true fact. Okay. I want to be unreasonable in this moment. And in this moment, that is a personal attack on me. So you will get my bill. If you could spend a day shadowing a woman from a different profession, who would it be and what would you hope to learn from her?
Dawn Staley of the University of South Carolina basketball team. How like her players have sometimes really awful experiences in childhood.
Yeah.
And how she mentors them and expects them to do well. I just want to have lunch with her and I want to watch her coach because I want to see how to do that in such a way that I can share that with other people. Absolutely, Dawn Staley. I'm going to read her book when it comes out. I think in May. But
we should do a book club.
Yes,
we should do a book club. What's your favorite woman-led movie or TV show, and which character do you most identify with?
Abbott Elementary, and I am Ms. Schmenti.
For someone from Minnesota, you have an affinity to Philadelphia today.
I do. I absolutely do. I'm an Eagles fan.
You did that for my benefit, didn't you?
No, I didn't. But I grew up with Designing Women and Murphy Brown.
Yes.
And so I am Julia Sugarbaker and I am Murphy Brown. Now, Murphy Brown is an awful boss. I understand that. I get it. But she also is doing the right thing most of the time. I mean, again, she's not a great boss, but she is doing the right thing. And
was she a boss or did she just I feel like she rejected having to, lead and manage most of the time.
Yes. Well,
even when it came to her child. Well, you are not Murphy Brown.
Okay. But I remember growing up watching Murphy Brown and Designing Women. Like those were my shows that I gravitated to the most. But if it was today, it would be Abbott Elementary and Ms. Schmenti.
I feel like I'm Suzanne.
Hey, the night the lights went down in Georgia, right? Yes. Like she twirled that fiery baton, right? Like
I think it's more her like delusions of grandeur and like a pet pig. Like who even has a pet pig?
Anyone can have a pet pig.
Being oblivious to other people, like, awesome. But also like being a nice, like actually being a caring and an awesome person and just doing that because that's what you think you're supposed to do.
Right. And super curious. Sometimes really inappropriately curious, but like she's asking Eldon or what was his name?
Meshach Taylor's character.
Yes. Oh. She's asking him totally inappropriate questions, but coming from a place of genuine curiosity, right? And that
was her best friend. That was her best friend.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're Julia, I'm definitely Suzanne Sugarbaker. Okay. What's your guilty pleasure when it comes to indulging in women-centered pop culture, not, and you can't say Taylor Swift, whether it's a reality TV show, a book, a binge-worthy series, a movie, self-care, recreational activity, etc., etc., etc.
So I am a huge fan of Rebecca Yarros, who has the Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm books out currently. Highly recommend them. They are often characterized as romantasy or dragon smut or whatever. They're often characterized that way, but they are stories of, one, doing the right thing, overcoming some personal challenges, and just, they're hilarious. Like the relationships between the dragons and the people, I absolutely adore them. I only somewhat feel a little guilty about them, but they would generally be considered a guilty pleasure. But I love her.
We'll allow it. We will allow it. You already said one, but I want a different one. What's the best piece of career advice you received from another woman?
So the Minnesota Supreme Court Justice Esther Tomlanovich, she's no longer on the court, but she came and spoke to my law school class, and she said, write and speak at a fourth grade level. Not because we're trying to dumb things down, but if you understand things at a fourth grade level and you explain them at a fourth grade level, you create more buy-in, and it makes it so that folks are going to be easier on page. And this is a real problem, particularly for lawyers or anyone with a really technical career, using words that exclude people because they're technical and things like that, or legalese, means that I'm not doing my job right. And so I try, and nearly everything, I mean, I swear like a fucking sailor, but
no,
I try really hard to break things down in such a way that when we're talking about quid pro quo or in loco parentis or the legal phrases that we can fall into, I'm trying to explain it at a fourth grade level all the time.
Have you ever, I don't mean to take away from you or from Women's History Month, but have you ever seen those, I guess they're on TikTok, but I only see them on Instagram, like those videos of the guy who translates stuff into legalese?
Yes. Like the fuck around and find out, and it's like cost of the consequences. Yes.
Yes. Oh, so those are some of my favorite. I have to share those with you when I see them. Okay. Next question. How should individuals and communities actively participate in amplifying voices and visibility of women beyond the month of March?
Oh, so I search out organizations that I want to support, not just from where I send my money, but where I spend my money. So I can't remember his name, but there's an app that shows you Black-owned businesses. I am looking for female-led things to replace. I'm looking for, certified B Corps.
Okay.
I look for those, and that's how I choose to spend my money. I might not be loud about it. I'm really trying to evaluate these days how I use social media in particular. But I try to spend my money where it's important to me. For example, purchasing, I bought a new car yesterday. The finance person was female. The salesperson was Black. Like I am trying to spend my money where my values align, and that amplifies those communities. Appreciate
that. Thank you. All right. Oh God, she's going to say something. Taylor Swift. What is your go-to songs, or music genre when you want to hype yourself up to conquer the day?
It's not Taylor.
Oh, okay.
What Taylor helps me cry. But to hype my day, I really like OK Go. It's all male band. Okay. They're famous with doing a video on treadmills. I really like OK Go. I really like, at the moment, I have gone down the Chaperone, listening to all of that. I am slowly getting into, I think her name is Doechii.
Doechii is dopey. Okay.
Yes.
Like dope, not like dope. Oh, see, that didn't work out. See how I try to be cool and it just doesn't work. Okay. No, I love Doechii. I just watched Doechii's Tiny Desk.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yes. Loved it.
Yes.
And I have downloaded the albums. So yes, absolutely. Love Doechii. Okay.
Yeah.
But does that mean you also like Nicki Minaj?
So Nicki can be mean.
Oh.
And I don't like.
I mean, style wise, I'm speaking totally strictly musically.
Yes. Strictly musically.
Style is definitely influenced by Nicki Minaj.
Absolutely. But I think there's a difference between, and this will get into something in a second, so hold on. There's a difference between building myself up versus tearing others down. Okay. And my experience with Nicki Minaj, particularly when she's gotten into things, other people feels I'm tearing you down as opposed to building other people up. And so that is a turnoff to me. Does that make sense? So
it does. I'm a Doechii fan. I'm not a Nicki Minaj. I don't have one Nicki Minaj album, but I mean, I can definitely hear Nicki's cadence, Nicki's influence when I hear her. So anyway, if you wrote a book about your career so far, what would the title be?
I have no idea what the title would be, but so sometimes with people, I get the dance monkey dance, like, please entertain us, Kate, with your stories, kind of thing that really frustrates me. But I have lived a very, very cool, lots of weird experiences. You know, I put mascara on Tony Blair's shirt. I have tons and tons of stories. My dad hit on Laura Bush. Like, I've got tons and tons of really crazy stories that aren't necessarily always related directly to my career, but they make up who I am. So I don't know what the title would be, but I've thought about starting to write these down so that my kids have them eventually.
Who I am.
Yeah.
I have something called, there's a book. Someone gave it to me for my birthday. And then I bought multiple copies to give to other people on their birthdays. And it's basically, you're writing your story of yourself.
Yeah.
It's like the prompts. And it's not any place I can reach it right now. Otherwise, I will show it to you.
Okay.
I think it's called The Story of Me. I'm pretty sure it's called The Story of Me. Okay. Blue. It's like a blue book. And you like write down like, what were you doing when you were 13? Like all that. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Okay. Before we get out of here, tell us what upcoming projects or initiatives we should be on the lookout for, and also where people can find you, follow you, give you high fives, and hire you to get them out of their problems.
Oh, I appreciate that. Please come hire me. Where people can find me is K8 BISCH. That's where you can find me everywhere. Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, even on LinkedIn. That's where you can find me. That's who I am. What was the other part of that question?
Upcoming projects, initiatives.
Upcoming projects. Yes. So I'm in the process of building a updated version of LinkedIn Learning's course on creating handbooks. And so
nice.
Within the next 6 months, you should probably see my course on building that. It's really fascinating because I have very strong feelings about handbooks, and they are totally on board with those strong feelings. And so I'm excited about it.
I love it. Kate, thank you. It is always a pleasure to chat with you. And sometimes, when I get to share you with other people, being the Suzanne Sugarbaker that I am.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. Come get a ride in my new car. You'll love it.
I'm not exaggerating. She drives very fast, and she can hold a conversation. Like, she's like reaching across you. She's like, oh, grab that thing. Hey, do that. It's like, it's scary, but I enjoyed it. Listen, she took me to all the lakes in Minnesota. It took 10 minutes. No, I'm joking. I'm exaggerating. But no, she took me on a tour of the city. We got Juicy Lucy. She got us to and from places safely. Like, she drives fast, but listen, these are things. We would be like, okay, which one of us is not sitting in the front?
You have to sit in the front. Now the front has its own personal screen. You can play games and watch movies. It's so fun.
No, I get car sick, so I would definitely not be able to do that. Which is why I've never ridden in why I don't like riding in that one person's vehicles, because it's like it's too much for me, and it makes me nauseous. Anyhow, thank you for being a part of the new She Suite, Trap Queens Redefining Success, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks, everyone.